Hi everyone, so it's Friday, time to talk about what I have been reading this week. So I finished a few things. I finished one book and a bunch of manga. So let me just show you the manga because I'm not gonna actually talk about it because I'm doing a video where I'm trying the first volume of several things, and that video will probably go up next week because I still have 3 more to read. And I'll be talking about my feelings in that video. So I don't want to talk about my feelings on these right now, but I'll let you know which ones I have read in case you want to know whether you'll be interested in watching that one. So I finished Frieren, Beyond Journey's End, Prince Freya, and all these are the first volume, Witch Hat Atelier, Asadora, Dr. Stone, and Yona of the Dawn. So all of those I finished. If you want to know how I feel about them, like I said, that video should be up next week. And the only book I finished was The Soul of an Octopus. And this one I was doing for part of my nonfiction May. So I'm reading like at least a chapter of nonfiction every day. And this one, I had started this a couple months ago, only read a chapter, put it down because I was doing some other things, and then decided to keep going. And it just reads pretty fast. So I was able to finish it over the course of a couple days. And this is like, I don't know, I guess she would call it a memoir, but then also it's talking about some scientific facts about and information about octopuses. So basically, Cy Montgomery is a naturalist and also an author, and she really likes octopuses. And she like became friends with these octopuses at an aquarium. And this is just kind of her experience with each of the octopus who went through that aquarium, that lived there, and yeah, just kind of what she learned from interacting with octopus. I thought it was interesting. There were parts that kind of, I wasn't like loving, like I was really interested at first and then it would lull a little bit, get repetitive, or like when she would talk about scuba diving, she talked about it in so much detail, like about the equipment and everything, and I was just like, I don't really care. And her training, like I don't care, go back to the octopuses, like that's the part that I was interested in, and kind of her interaction with them and all that. So I didn't really care about those chapters that she focused on scuba diving, but for the most part, I enjoyed this one and it read really quick. So that's everything I finished. And then I'm in the middle of a couple of physical reads because since I've been reading so much manga physically, I haven't been reading a lot. So I would say of at least these physical reads, I haven't read a lot of them. Like, for example, We Are Displaced. I got a couple more chapters done in this because as part of the nonfiction, this was the one I was reading over the weekend before I picked up Soul of an Octopus. And so I should finish this one probably in the next week because I only have a few more chapters left. So getting close to being done with that one. Still thinking that it's great for like a younger audience maybe that hasn't read much about the refugee experience. But for me, I wish it had a little more, but I think I said that same thing last week, so still feeling the same. And then I continue to slowly read at nighttime, The Siren of Sussex, but I actually made pretty good progress since last week, because I think I had been like, I think I have moved ahead like about 50 or 60 no, maybe more than that. Yeah, I don't even think I was at 100 pages last week when I talked to you guys, and now I am at like 170. So I made some progress, but since this is my nighttime read, it's moving pretty slowly and not much has happened. There's been a little bit of romantic intrigue, but we're still at the very beginning of any kind of relationship. And the rest of these I am listening to on audiobook. I have, let's see, I'll talk about the ones that I talked about last week. So last week I had started Jane Against the World, Roe v. Wade, and the Fight for Reproductive Rights. And this one, I kind of take it slow because there's so much information. Like it's very, not technical, but it has a lot of information about the court cases. And especially now, I'm at the point where we are discussing Roe v. Wade, because this went up like the history of reproductive rights up until Roe v. Wade, and now we're actually at the court case. So it's a little more detailed, so I have to take my time, because sometimes if I get distracted, I have to rewind a little bit, because it is a little more information heavy instead of just like kind of anecdotes. So I am still enjoying this and learning a lot from it. And I actually only have 100 pages left because a lot of this is notes. Like this one has a ton of notes, which makes sense that it would have a lot of like notes on the case and some legal terms. So I really only have this much left of the book, and the rest of that is all notes. And then I had also started last week Disenchanted, The Trials of Cinderella, which is a middle grade that's like a retelling of Cinderella, but has like labor rights discussions. And I am really enjoying this. I have made it 300 pages in. I don't remember where I was last week, but definitely I think I was in the first like fourth, and now I am 3/4 of the way through. And I'm just really liking the characters in this. We're following Cinderella, the prince, and the fairy godfather. And I'm loving them all. I'm loving the interactions. I'm loving the discussions about, you know, workshops and labor rights and a lot of stuff that's like heartbreaking, but important information. I think important to have in a middle grade book. And yeah, I'm just really enjoying this one. It does have moments that move kind of slowly, so it's taking me a while. Like normally a middle grade book wouldn't take me like a whole week and a half to read. Like I'll probably have this finished in the next 2 days. And that would mean I've been reading this for a week and a half. And normally it doesn't take me that long, but I feel like this has a lot in it and some slow moving moments, but then it'll be a moment where I'm really enjoying it. So I'm still interested the whole time. It just is a little slower for me to read. There's also like no breaks between the chapters. Like it goes from one to the next. Like if you see like there's a chapter heading, there's no like blank space. So it's actually a pretty dense book for the size. And then ones that I have started this week, I started Invictus, which is a sci-fi time travel kind of romp. I call it that because it's definitely more, not really on the technical side. It's definitely more like adventure and fun and kind of over the top. And I'm not sure how I'm feeling about it. So far, I finished part 1, which is 61 pages. And I'm not like loving it at this point. And there was like part of me that considered like quitting on it, but we're still in part 1. So I want to give it some time. Plus I have this challenge where I'm supposed to read 3 sci-fi books this month. So, and this is the first one I have started. So I figured I should like move along. That's why I decided to pick it up as an audiobook. I had started just reading it physically and I'm like, no, I'm just gonna pick up the audiobook, and it doesn't seem like one where I have to concentrate a lot. Like if I get distracted, I think it'll be fine. But we'll see. If I actually make it through this, I might end up quitting this one and picking a different sci-fi book. So not loving it. I'm just kind of like feeling average at this point. And then the last one is one that my daughter and I are listening together, and that is The Land of Stories, The Wishing Spell. So this is the first book in I think a 6-book series about these twins that they fell into a fairy tale world. Like basically their grandmother gives them a book of fairy tales and they can go into the book of fairy tales. So they're stuck in the Land of Stories and they had to figure out how to get back home. And this is what we picked up because we had finished Our Shaw, that series, and she really wanted a new like audiobook series to listen to in the car. And I had owned this book, and I knew that Chris Colfer also he wrote this and he narrates his own audiobooks. And since he's an actor, I thought, you know, he probably is good at narrating. And so we have been listening to this one and moving through quite quickly because she is loving it so much, my daughter, and I'm enjoying it too. Like it's one that I don't know how much I would have loved reading it just by myself, but I'm really enjoying like it with her. Like there's a lot of the characters from fairy tales in here, so it's been fun to kind of like recognize those different characters, and like definitely some high stakes stuff is happening on a kid level. Like this is definitely on a 7-year-old level. Like my daughter's 7-year-old. Like I don't know how much an older middle grade audience would be as interested in this as like a younger middle grade. The only thing is he does have some like sexual innuendos I have noticed that like pop up that I'm like, I'm noticing this. I don't think my 7-year-old is. It's almost like, you know, when you watch like Shrek with a kid and they like the characters and they think they're funny, but then as an adult you're like, oh, that's not appropriate. So there's a couple moments like that. I'm like, I don't know, because an older middle grade I think would get the reference, and then is that mean it's inappropriate because they probably still shouldn't be getting those references, but like a 7-year-old is not going to get the reference. So I'm not quite sure. I mean, this is his first middle grade book, I believe, so maybe he didn't realize he was putting in sexual innuendo in there. I don't know. But yeah, it was a bit uncomfortable a couple times, but like I said, my 7-year-old's not catching it. But I would think a 11 or 12-year-old would catch those references. So it's just whether as an adult you want your kid catching the references. But yeah, I'm enjoying it. There's 6 of these, like I said, so we'll probably just keep listening to. I'm not gonna buy them physically anymore since we're enjoying the audiobook, so we'll just keep listening to them on audio. And that's it. That's everything I have been reading. Like I said, I'm doing a lot of physical reading of manga. I still have 3 more manga volumes to read for that video, and then I'll probably start going back to like the physical books that I really need to like finish, because I'm listening to stuff when I'm doing chores or hanging out or on the drive doing it with her. But like these 2 physical books, well, obviously this is my bedtime one, so this one, because I'm almost done with the manga, will be like a priority to finish, because I've started all these nonfiction books. I would like to finish some of them by the end of the month, and not, you know, pull them into June. Like I would like to have them finished with this nonfiction month. And there's some other things that I have started and put down that I didn't mention that I would really like to read, but they're physical reads, and I like, until I finish these last 3 manga, I'm probably not gonna be picking up more physical reads. But hopefully this is Friday, so I'm hoping I can finish those over the next day, and then by Sunday I actually have some time to pick up a relaxing like physical read to sit and look at. And that's it for me. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you next time. Bye.